So, welcome everybody to the Collab call. It's a quarterly lunchroom chat of sorts where I just sit down with a professional. We share stories, we share lessons learned, experiences while building our business. And this quarter, we're focusing on branding and creating content that supports our brands while still staying authentic to who we are. I want to introduce this quarter's collab call guest, Regan Sanders. So, Regan is a social media strategist and founder of Regan Sanders Creative, where she posts for small business owners while combining consumer psychology, strategy, and a little bit of fun. I would argue that you offer a lot of bit of fun.
On a bit of fun.
Reagan was originally born and raised in Louisiana, and now she's based in the Pacific Northwest. She's also the creator of Rock and Scroll Club, which is an accessible membership designed to teach business owners how to do social media as if she were the one managing it. And she even started a new networking group less than 1.5 years of being in the Pacific Northwest. Outside of work, she's usually exploring Oregon with her husband and two dogs. So, yay, welcome, Reagan, to the collab call. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your experience and wisdom and just kind of like share with us your journey and where you've been, where you're going, and all that good stuff. So, Reagan, we did a collab reel the other day where I asked you a fun question. It was, what is something that people think is intentional branding, but it's actually just a quirky personality? And while I fully intend on getting your response, and I actually have a response too for that, I want to get into the nitty-gritty of why we're here first. So let's go and just kick off our experiences with branding.
Cool.
You're
I'm ready.
ready. You're like, all right, dig in. So before we get started, I do have a couple of text messages who are from people who are supposed to be on this. So if you don't mind, can we just pause and I'm gonna answer those text messages real quick? Okay. I'm like, I know people are looking, I bet I'm in the spam. Okay, she said, never mind. O- Okay, so Reagan, I know that your background is in marketing. So you went to school, you graduated with a degree in marketing, and you worked with a few agencies. I don't know if you'd call it like specify them as agencies perhaps, but I'm gonna just classify them as agencies. But you worked with a couple of agencies after college, and you've been in business for 3 to 4 years. So I want to kick off by just asking, where do you consider yourself in the branding process of your own business?
Cool. So right now I feel like I'm in somewhat of a post rebrand. I've kind of whenever I got started about 4 years ago, I knew I had to get started, but I was okay with doing it messy. I was like, if I try to do all the things, cross all my T's and dot all my I's, like this thing is never going to kick off the ground because, with my background in advertising and whatnot, we would spend hours to literal days and weeks pining over individual like ad creatives and like wording choices. And so like I knew like the extent of what could happen if you gave it that space.
Yep.
And I was like, if I do that, if I literally apply all that stuff, it's never gonna happen. So I hopped on Canva and started my branding process with
Yeah.
just like my logo and like just the fonts based off of
Yeah.
Canva and put it out into the world so I can launch, right? And so it got me where I needed to be. It got me to that space where like, okay, I have like a framework for my website. I have a framework for, all the things, right? And a couple years later than that, I was like, okay, well, I'm more established now and I want to expand a little bit. And so I need to grow into a brand that's kind of more me now.
Yeah.
And also that like I could see myself in 5 years. And so the past couple months I've somewhat rebranded myself to include the Rock and Scroll Clubs because previously I was only doing the done for you services where I would manage other people's socials, and then I had my own kind of brand where like I was teaching people and I was incorporating new avenues, so I needed to have a little bit more of a stronger visual representation of my brand across everything. And so I kind of went a more like I was like, I need to have more fun. I need to have more fun in there because like whenever I shoot with people and show up and we have meetings, we just have so much fun and
Yeah.
they all walk away telling me that they had so much fun. And I'm like, I need to incorporate that
Yes.
because a lot of people, whenever they think about posting on social, it's overwhelming, it's scary, they don't want to do it. And they're like, you made it fun. And so I wanted to bring that into my branding. And so I kind of rebranded with kind of like a fun, very vibrant pink and disco and just like almost goofy
Yeah.
kind of a brand. And so that's where I am now, where I've kind of leaned into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So,
What I love to hear you say, and what I want other people, what I hope other people are hearing you say, is that you did not take a one and done approach. It has been a pivotal, it's been slow pivots over time. And something that this is what I learned when I was working in business or business management, project management, is that there are two main methodologies to rolling something out. There's what's called a waterfall methodology, which is essentially you plan everything up front and then you put all the work behind it and everything rolls out and it's done. Then there's the agile methodology, which is where you take slow approaches and you're constantly pivoting and you're applying solutions and you're problem solving along the way. And that's something that I find is crucial in small business when you're particularly the one that's doing it all. Like you can't I see so many people spend so much time on things like logo design or your price list. They're like, oh, but I have to set up like this price list for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but you don't have a mission yet. Like, what are we doing? Like,
uh-huh,
and
uh-huh,
and so many times we put that cart before the horse. That's the right. Okay, I was like, hold on, let me
mhm,
check that analogy. So many times we put that cart before the horse, and we're not ready for those things. When really, if we just took like a little tiptoe approach and then did small pivots over time, we'll really come out with a brand that's a lot more authentic to ourselves. Because when we're starting out, we're just like, okay. I don't know anything about my clients. I don't know who's going to buy this. I don't know who I want to sell to. I don't know where they're hanging out. I don't know what they find attractive. I don't know anything about anything really. And I like to hear you say that you are not just open to pivoting along the way, but like you expect that's going to happen and you understand that it truly takes time.
yeah,
And
yep,
something that I don't that people don't give enough of. People will give all the money in the world, but they want it done tomorrow. They want all of this launched and working tomorrow, and that's just not reality. A brand takes time. And so I've mentioned this to you like four times today, I think, but this is like one of my favorite books. If you've never read it, like highly recommend it. I have a link to it on my stories right now if you want it. It's like under $8. Anyway, one of the things that Mike Albach says in this book is he talks about how it will take approximately 2 years of consistent, strategic, and intentional branding to become known as the expert in your niche.
wow,
Now, that's average, right? Like, is that to say that brands don't wake up tomorrow and are out the gate and they're soaring like an eagle? That happens, sure. But is that normal? Probably not. It's probably not realistic. And so one of the things that I really try to do whenever I'm, you know, getting knowledge to people is to be transparent. And that's a
mhm,
big missing piece that people have is they want things done quickly, they want it to roll out quickly, but they're not willing to change their mind after that rollout. And you have to be willing to change your mind. You have to be willing to pivot based off of not just what you're feeling, but what your customers are feeling. And not just the customers, but your ideal customers. Because if our customers and they're paying customers, if they're paying, awesome, but they may not be the ones that we want paying. And so there's a disconnect there. But that just takes time to figure that out.
definitely, definitely true. And like, yeah, again, whenever I started, I was coming from corporate, right? And so I was in the corporate world where you had to be like super professional and you were expected to be a certain way. And so that's kind of how I started my branding. Like it was super like kind of clean and that kind of way. And that was just not really aligning with my brand. And like as it evolved and how I kind of started just hearing conversations from my clients and hearing conversation from just people I talked to, like the brand just didn't really, wasn't aligning with who I was as a brand anymore and things like
Yeah.
that. So it's definitely like an evolution. And listening to your customers and being like, oh, that's how you see me. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like other people need to see me as well. And so that's kind of how my
Right.
brand evolved like that. So,
Right. And I like how you say listening to your customers and seeing what they're saying. It's like
oh yeah.
not you have to listen to what they're saying, not choosing what to hear. So there's like, right? Like we could be like, well, my clients think that I'm blah, 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 but that may not be the actual reality. Like that could be your perception. The best thing that you can do to figure out if your branding is working is to ask the people who you want to buy it, right? Like
Mm,
I know that my brand is working when leads come in already knowing why they can't live without me.
mm,
That my brand is working when people are pre-qualifying themselves before they come in. They know my values, they know my mission, they know what I stand for, they know what I do, they know how I do it, and they know what people get on the back end. And that's how you know your brand is working. It's through all it's the proof is in the pudding, right? Like if I'm consistently having to filter people out, well, that's an indication that maybe I'm not doing enough qualifying on the front end so that the clients can do that work. You know, I want to be able
yeah.
to focus my attention on the back end work and serving my client.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do you, especially I have an echo. I feel like I have an echo. Do I have an echo to you? Okay,
No. Good.
I'm gonna turn this down and see if that helps. Okay. So tell me what has been, we talked a little bit about this the other day, but what's been like one of the most valuable tools, would you say, in your branding, like establishing your brand as a visible brand, particularly after moving across the country?
Yeah, so I think the most important part for me is authenticity. Like I feel like because I've gotten to the point where everything is so authentic and like I don't worry about being that like super I felt like I kind of had to put on this face of being like the super professional, and since I've evolved away from that, like I feel like I can just show up being goofy, being like super colorful and like all the fun things. And so I feel like I didn't have to try, and as weird as that sounds, like I don't have to like overthink the way I show up anymore. I think that's like the key to it. And just being like your true authentic self,
Yeah.
that you're able to like put that everywhere. And like, even I can put in Chat GPT and like crap everything that it says for like my brand voice and
Mhm.
stuff, because I'm like, it's not really how I would talk. That's not how
Right.
I would show up.
Yeah.
And so like it'll shoot me some ideas about like, okay, here's your caption. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like we
Yeah.
have to add some more fun stuff in there.
Yeah.
And so like just being able to turn that on and be like, okay, you can be authentic and you can
Yeah.
show up the way that you want to. I feel like that is the key to like being able to transfer to make sure that your brand is an extension of you and how you can show up consistently everywhere, just being
Yeah.
authentic. And
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
all that's
I love that because that is something that I try to do. I when I was going through these steps and when I'm referencing more of like my photography hobby images, like the more of the
yeah.
flagship brand, right? I'm now going through a series, albeit it's been a quicker transition going from Hoppy Images to Angela Hoppy Collaborative because of the personal branding work that I did in Hoppy Images, but I'm still taking the same steps. But one of the most valuable things that I did, I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, was quite asking my clients like, hey, when I'm there, what is there? And when I'm not there, what is missing? And all of them came back with, I just feel like I can be myself because you are yourself. And then the other one was, man, you just make it so fun. And so I said, well, I'm so glad that you love that about me because I love that about myself. Yay. Okay, let's do this. And so from there, what I did is I just leaned into that and it made, like you're saying, like I don't really have to try at it because this is just who I am. And there's a certain person who's just going to like when you're authentically yourself, you give space for other people to be the same way. And very us people want a very small set of things. They want to feel seen, they want to feel heard, and they want to feel loved. And if we can do one or all of those things, then we can feel like we will be able to, we're unstoppable, right? Like we can give our people the needs that they actually have. Um, and so that was one of the most powerful things that I ever did was I texted like five people that I was like, okay, like if I could have nothing but those people, like
Mhm.
what do they care about? And that allowed me to pull out of myself what I already knew was there and what I knew other people valued. And so that gave me just the confidence that I needed to go, okay, wait, if I could just focus on these three things, cozy, transparent, fun. And that's what I did. I just honed in, I narrowed in, and I said, I'm going to be the cozy, transparent, fun photographer. And that's
Love
what I
that.
did. And I think that there's a caveat there, though, is if you don't know yourself, branding is a lot harder.
Ooh, that's a
You
big
know?
one.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
big
Like
one.
if in order for us, and there's a reason this book is sitting right here. Mike says something like, and I've said this before and I couldn't remember who said it, but then I found it in my little book today when I was prepping. But he says your brand is the intersection of your perception of yourself and how other people perceive you. So it's just perception. It's not actually reality, right? Like your
Yeah.
brand is this secret tunnel way. And our goal is to get the right people into our tunnel. And the way that we do that is through our brand. It's the way that we attract people to the tunnel and then the way that we treat them while they're in the tunnel. And if we have confusion about who we are, then that makes it harder for other people to perceive those same pieces. And so if there's confusion on either way, on either side, that makes it even harder to be clear in your messaging. Like if there is a gap between how you perceive yourself, then there's not going to be that strength in your brand because other people are going to have a hard time perceiving you as well. Does that make sense?
That's a really interesting point. No, that's super interesting because I will say that like I feel like through the corporate and like, feeling like I had to be a certain person professionally, I feel like I really did lose myself. And that kind of, leaked into the way that I first started my business and things like that. And it always felt like I had to be a certain way. And, just growing into adulthood, I'm going to be 30 this summer. And so just kind of going back to myself over the past few years and like going back to all the things I loved as childhood and like all the hobbies that I enjoyed and like the artwork that I was attracted to and the clothes I would pick out of
Mhm.
my closet that my mom was like, no, you can't wear that.
Yeah.
Like all those things that I'm like, I'm an adult and I have
Yeah.
the adult funds to buy these things and like enjoy these things. And so it's funny that you mentioned that because as soon as I started allowing myself to come back to the things that I loved, not what society told me, not what my friends and family and like all those other outside sources were telling me that I had to like and be and like all these sort of things. When I came back to myself, everything felt easier. And it's like, oh, that's what I love because, that's how I want to brand myself and both personally and professionally because that's just who I am. That's who I
Mhm.
was as a kid. That's what I loved. And the fact that I could come back to that and that just leaks everywhere and I don't have to try as hard anymore
Yeah.
because it's not
Yeah.
fake. It's like that's me.
Yeah.
So
And that clarity in who you are helps to just kind of root who what your brand is. Like
for sure.
because who you are can change and that's okay for your brand to change and evolve with it. You know it's time to change when there becomes a disconnect between your brand and your clients or your
Mm,
brand and yourself. When it becomes muddy, when you can no longer pour into your brand in a way that is authentic and then there becomes this muddiness to your brand and then it confuses people and there's this disconnect and you feel uncomfortable. You start to like leak this joy, like it's like I feel like I'm going to work every day. This isn't why I started my business. you
mm,
know and
yep.
I mean I've kind of over the last, I would say honestly, like I'm 7 years in business this year and or 7.5 years now. And I would say for the last couple years, I've felt this pull to like where I felt like copy images no longer encompass like what I was doing. Like the mission
Sure.
is still the same, like I want to
Mhm.
empower women, but the way that I'm doing it has just shifted a little bit, and I didn't feel like just having it under that Hoppy Images made sense anymore. And I've felt that pull for a while, but what I needed to do first is I needed to seek my own clarity because I knew that launching a business without a certain level of clarity, I'm not going to say that when I launched, like officially launched Angela Hoppy Collaborative, that I was super clear. Like there was not a lot of clarity, and I'm still gaining clarity. But what I want people to understand is like it's a process. It's not like you
Yeah,
just put out a brand and it's like good to go. Like that
right,
rarely happens. You have to evolve with your people. You have to meet them where they are. But the only way you can do that is to know where they are and who they are and what they stand for and all of the things. And so while your brand is rooted in who you are, it's not about you. And so that's you have to, when you're evaluating your brand and going, oh, is there alignment? It remember that at the core, like yeah, you are the roots, but like your clients are that trunk. They're what
Mhm.
is making you big and tall.
Yeah,
So there has to be like this delicacy that happens when you do transition, but the beauty of having a strong personal brand along with your brand is that I'm finding, at least in my experience, is it's making things a little easier to make that transition.
for sure. Yeah, and that's kind of why going back to, listening to your customers, that's the exact reason why I started the Rock and Scroll Club, which is like my super accessible social media membership, because I realized, okay, like I've kind of priced myself out of the small business sphere. Like I'm
Mhm.
not reaching the solopreneurs with that pricing anymore. But like I had to pay the bills and, compensate for my expertise and experience and all the things. But I still really wanted to serve the little guys.
Yeah.
And so just by listening to be like, you know what, like I would really love to do that, but the bank says no,
Yep.
basically. And
Yep.
I'm like, but I want to say yes still. And so I was like, I have to have some sort of kind of in between level where, yes, I can still serve those people that want me and want
Mhm.
my services, but I can't expend myself for pennies on the dollar anymore. Like I
Yep.
just can't do it.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I created that, is because I was listening to those people that were saying, look, we still want that, but we can't price it. And so I'm like,
Yep.
okay, what can I do?
Yeah.
So I had to like go back and be like, what can I do that didn't feel icky?
Yeah.
Because I was like, just the course model of like, oh, just go buy my course. Like that just felt disgusting to
Mhm.
me.
Yep.
And I'm like, I still want them to feel like they have a social media manager. Like I
Mhm.
still want them to have that level of support that they need. And so that's how that was born, because
Mhm.
I sensed the need for that. And just based off of people talking, they're like, that work, but not this. And so I
Yeah.
was like, okay, so that's kind of how
It's
I
also,
built
I like to hear you say that too, because it also creates a stronger funnel as well, right? Like
it.
you're
Yes.
offering stepping stones for people to pay before or play before they pay kind of thing. I mean, even though they're
Hmm.
paying for this
Sure.
club, it's a much smaller price point. And so it almost is a way for them to see why they can't live without your services. Like, hey, like
All right.
even making it this easy, right? Or this easy, because
Yes.
ease is very subjective. But like even making it like this, like if you do want more support, like it's available. I'm a big fan of using the no but model in sales, right? Like I
Mhm.
can't offer you that, but I can offer you this. Like I can still give you a solution to your problem, but it just may not be this particular service or package or whatever. And
Sure.
that's something again that we really have to dig deep into ourselves to be able to go no but because it's
Yeah.
really scary going, I really need this money, I really want to work with this person, but like I know that it's going to cost me way more than than just saying no. You know,
Right.
it's going to cost you,
Exactly.
and not in terms of, well, sometimes in terms of financial. You know, sometimes these projects that we should have said no to end up costing us more, either money or bandwidth, in terms of like mental energy and time and all the things. Um, but yeah, that's a fear that we have to get over in ourselves and just know we have to fully, and that goes back to branding. You know, you have to understand what you're offering it, why you're offering it, you know, on what basis, like where does your expertise come from? Is there value in that? And not just is there value in your opinion, but in your client's opinion. Because again, it's not about what you would buy unless you're your ideal customer, which half the time we are not our ideal customer. And that is why I don't go to myself for advice. And that's why I don't go to my family for pricing advice and anything else, because they're not the ones who are buying my services either. So I really try to be strategic. Like when you're getting advice from people, consider like, is it people who are either knowledgeable about the audience that you're selling to, or are they people that are buying the services themselves?
I love that. My favorite quote, I heard it a couple years ago and I've just like soaked it in because I love it so much. And this applies to both personal and business, but it's don't take advice from people who don't live the life that you want.
Yeah.
And I heard that and I was like, that's it. Because like I was people that were like, I don't know, just like my dad, for example. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love him to death, but it's like, oh, do I really want to be in your position whenever I'm 65 years old? Nah, probably not.
Probably
I'm like,
not. Thanks, Dad.
no. So I of course take his advice, but also with a grain of salt. It'd be like
Yeah.
your opinion of whatever I'm asking you about, you don't have experience with this. You don't like you don't have any value or knowledge in this particular thing, you
Mhm.
know. So I really like that's one piece of advice that like, oh, I just like adopted that and I
Yeah.
love it to death.
Yeah, and not to say that like their opinions don't have value, but like to
Exactly.
put my decision making on the
Mhm.
basis of like your opinion, if I'm going to be doing that, I want to truly understand like where those opinions are coming from, right? Like I want to understand like the deeper, how that, just like I try to be very strategic when I'm asking for feedback, because there's a difference between advice and just feedback, right? And so sometimes that can get a little confusing, but that I oftentimes I find myself kind of just reassuring people like it's okay if you don't feel 100%, right? Like go to somebody
Sure.
who's not you, but who will buy your services to get their opinion on things. I'm a big fan of just like just ask the
Mm,
question that you need to ask if you want the
mm,
answer for it.
that's
Uh,
great. I love.
so I want to hear a little bit more about, so the Rock and Scroll Club is a monthly, you sign on at the same time, and then it's a content creation, like you're helping them, like, all right, everybody, we're gonna make this reel today. And so while y'all are rocking and rolling, this is how I'm assuming it goes. Like everybody's just like dancing down the street doing their own thing. Um,
Oh,
and then you post. That's in my head, that's what happens. And then you also have, I want to talk about the hose club. So I want to hear about that. So give me a little rundown and then kind of tell me like I want to hear like in terms of branding. So like how are you branding that? How are you, launching that? And then what will that look like kind of in the future as you create content and stuff for that particular brand?
yeah. So the Rock and Scroll Club is so for $50 a month, that is a social media membership. And like I said, like it's kind of one of those things where pitch it as I'm teaching you how to be the social media manager as if I were to take it over. So like number one, I'm walking you through each month. We are like pulling out our phones. I'm like, get your charger and come show up like this, and we're gonna post something in real time, basically, you know. And so last month was all about like, let's make something in less than 5 minutes, like a super easy like B-roll style content. And so it changes each month, and like we have a different theme every month. And then there's also a course library where you go in besides that and go learn like how to I'm walking you through like how to build your content calendar and like how to set up your pillars, how to like show up energetically and like how do you need to like wear different things even, things like
And
that.
that's included in the membership, or can
Yep.
they access that separately?
No, it's all in the membership because
Okay,
I would
cool.
say the most value is like, again, having me guiding you, like that level of support where like we're face to face every month. And then,
Mhm.
you go do your homework on the side.
And this is
So
something
that's
people
kind of
can
how I
do
set up.
virtually too. Like this isn't
Yeah,
just Pacific
anywhere.
Northwest. So like if
Oh
people
yeah,
were
it's everywhere.
interested in joining from here, they could still do that
Yeah.
with you monthly. Cool.
Yes, yep, that is 100% remote. So that's that. And then, yeah, so the hose is a really interesting flip side of things. So hose is the Hillsboro, Oregon Entrepreneur Sisters. And so that is a networking thing that me and my friend came up with. That started as a shower thought. I just as a little bit of
Ah.
background. I do a ton of networking. I'm like at 2 to 3 different networking events, typically like per week. Some for my regularly scheduled programming, and then others that I just like dip my toes into and give it a try. And so I found myself driving like 30, 45 minutes to different networking events, sometimes an hour if I thought I saw some value in it. And I was like, there's nothing close to where I live. There's kind of like an entrepreneur desert, I feel like, in this little place. Because just some background too, this is where Intel is, this is where Nike is. So, like, the big corporations are housed out here, but you don't see a lot of like entrepreneur, like, you don't talk to a lot of them. I feel like there's just kind of a lack of, like, we're out here, but there's
Mhm.
not a community. And from what I've seen, anyways. And so I was talking to my friend about it. I was like, yeah, like we're driving out to Portland a couple times a week and it just gets old. And even then they're like, that's not your community. And so I had the shower thought of like, okay, well, backing up again from there, we were attending one that was called Power, Portland, Oregon Women Entrepreneur Roundtable. And I was like, I kind of like that acronym. I was kind of playing around with that in my head in the shower, and I came up with the hose. I'm like,
And
how
it's
funny
like,
would it
do
be?
we do it? Do we do it? Yeah, we do
I
it.
was like, how funny would that acronym be? Like, I don't know where it could go from there, but like just
Yeah.
the thought of it was really funny to me. And I was telling my friend Jolene about it. I'm like, what do you think about this? And she's like, that cannot be a thing that just lives in our head. Like, we have to take action on it. And she's been here, pretty much all her life. And so she knows the community. And she's like, you're right. Like, there's not much out here for us, people like us that just want to have community with other female business owners.
Hmm.
And so we're like, let's just do it. We're just gonna like start. We started with a humble little Facebook group and just like put it out into the world. And we're like, in a couple months, we're gonna launch with our first event, and it's just gonna be like we were kind of scared to tell people about
Yeah.
it. Like
Yeah.
we're like, I don't know if we're gonna be judged. I don't know if it's gonna be well
Yeah.
received, but we're just gonna put it out in the world and just see what happens. And so we had 2 people show up to our first meeting, and 8 people show up to our last meeting, which was last month. Now our group has grown to like almost 50 people pretty
That's
much in a week.
awesome.
And
That's
so just
awesome.
because like just sharing it in local groups, first of
Yeah.
all, the branding of hose, like that captures people's attention
It
because it's like, what are
does.
you talking about? The
Yes.
hose? Like
Yes.
that's a hook immediately. And so they start reading and they're like, oh, it's not quite as scandalous as it sounds.
Scandalous.
And
Yeah.
the
Like, why are you
irony of it,
here?
like
What? How I got your attention?
and like the pure irony of it, like my husband was like, do you really want to call yourself the hose? And I was like, hear me out. It's the irony of it because
Yeah.
I don't say any curse word. I don't curse as a person. And like I am just like I'm such a wholesome person and like that's just who I am. So
Yeah.
the irony of branding it as the hose and being like, it's actually just like a chill
Yeah.
place for women business owners.
Yes.
Like I love it. And people message me like I'm joining just because of the name and I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what I've built
I
and I'm
love
really excited
it.
to see where it
I
grows.
am so proud. Yes, I am so proud of you. And girl, like 50 people, that's incredible. That's awesome. It's clear
Huge.
that that is like a need. And I'm gonna be honest, like people are starving for connection. People,
Yeah.
and not like the handshake where
Yep.
here's a business card connection. Like people are
Yeah.
tired of that. And we see people see through it like so quick.
Yeah.
You see through it, I see through it, everybody on this call sees through it, and we're done with it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited that like this type of networking is becoming more popular, and it's just it truly networking is something that I could not have built my business without it.
Right.
It is something that it's a bigger investment, I find, in terms of effort, but
Mm-hmm.
the payoff has been incredible for me.
Right.
So I definitely highly recommend like some type of networking. Um,
100%.
when you think about like what are your tips for creating content that's on brand? So how, if you could give like a single tip or
Gosh. Well,
three
this
or
is why
whatever
I
you want
started a
to
whole membership because that's
do.
always, there's no way. Um, So creating content on brand. So typically for me, what makes it really easy is with every client and for myself, I have pick out four pillars as like, okay, everything that we're going to talk about on this account is going to be falling within one of these content buckets, you know? So for me, like one of them is human psychology and like we're going into why people buy. And so it's really interesting, like buyer psychology. Another one is just like being super relatable on like what it feels like to press post and things like that. So like
Mhm,
each one of those things falls into one of four different content pillars, and that just makes it super simple across the board. You don't even have to that helps whenever you have an idea and you're like, does this fit within my brand or does it not? You know, because sometimes you'll have an idea and it's like, this doesn't really relate to what I want to be known for, I guess. And so that really helps me. Is just picking four different like little niche topics that you want to be known for
mhm,
and going after that. And if you have an idea and you need to like run it by yourself and say, is this worth posting? If it doesn't fall within one of those buckets, it belongs on your personal page.
mhm. Yeah.
Or it doesn't belong at all. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I use a similar tactic. Like, I think, like, what is the purpose of this post? Is it just to get
Yes. Oh
traffic to my
yes.
social media? Well, then, I mean, honestly, things are fair game, you know? Like,
Exactly.
but I also like run a brand that's like that, that's very
Yeah.
cozy, come as you are,
Yeah.
like, wear what you want, be who you are kind of thing. But, so I'm thinking, like, is the purpose to get traffic? Is the purpose to like, get sell them something? Is the purpose
Yeah.
to like educate them on something? Is what is the purpose? Where do I want them to go? What do I want them to do? And if the content makes it harder to do that job, then it's just not it's a no-go. Like, throw that. I'm like you, except I don't put it on my personal page. I put it on my stories. um
Ah,
but
oh, that's fair.
um but that is my stories is how I kind of push that relatability piece, I find. And I use my like follow your statistics, like follow your metrics. If you find like I know that my followers, if I want them to see something, I need to put it on my stories. But
Mm,
because I know that looking at my metrics, like my stories are typically people who already follow me. So
right.
if I want my followers to see it, then I need to make sure I put it on my stories. But if I want, you know, somebody else to see it, well, I know reels perform the best for me. They reach the people who don't follow me. So it really
Exactly.
just depends. And then it depends on like what my media needs at the time. Like if I wouldn't want to do a whole bunch of posts back to back that's meant for traffic, because then once the traffic gets to my social media, they're like, okay, now what? Like, what are we here for? So
Right.
I had to make sure that there's other things kind of filtered in and filtered through. And because I'm in this growing phase of branding, becoming more visible under Angela Hoppy Collaborative, I'm posting at a higher rate. And so
Yes.
what I'm posting will rotate a lot quicker than if I were to be in a more stable position. Whereas I could get
Right.
away with doing it a little less often, or maybe um, putting out different things at a different cadence. But my biggest tip is to like follow the metrics. Like, see
Mm,
what they're doing, see what your people are doing, see what works, see what's not working, and don't marry anything. Don't marry nothing. We're dating
yeah.
social media. Social
Oh
media is
yeah.
your dating site, okay? Because as soon as you marry something, things change and then it's not working anymore. So look at your metrics, figure out what's working, what's not working. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Don't be scared to pivot.
Yep. Yep. It's
Um,
all about testing.
yeah, yeah.
All about testing.
And know that like everybody else is dealing with the same thing. It's not just you. It's not like social media doesn't hate you. They hate everybody. Except for the people that pay to play.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's
But
definitely
it
true.
just takes, all I want you to know is that it just takes effort, it takes time, it takes like strategy. And so don't be discouraged. Just keep doing it and pivoting and seeing, finding what is working. Um,
100%. And another thing that I tell people too is that people like even if you're not getting astronomical numbers, even if you get a humble like 200 to 1,000 views per post, those are the big people that are meant to see it that time.
yep,
And that like even though it's not getting impressive numbers, like I've seen literal posts that do bad in terms of the algorithm that get like maybe 200 views, maybe like 10 likes, but it converts.
yep,
It brings a lead that is worth like $1,600
yep.
or multiple figures that is impressive, behind the scenes. And so, yeah, like you said, like keep going and you might
Listen to
impress
what
yourself.
people going back to what you said, listen to what people say too, because sometimes
Yep.
I post something and it's like low video viewers count, but then I see somebody at the supermarket and they're like, "Oh, I saw you posted this reel about blah blah blah," and I was like,
Yes.
why you didn't like it? Why you didn't comment and
Yeah.
tell me you were there? Like give
Yeah.
me a little
People
stuff.
are
I need like
definitely,
somebody cheering me on the sidelines, like
uh-huh.
please. So yeah, like don't like listen to what they're saying. Ask people like, "Hey, did you see my reel about blah blah blah?" Like see what people are consuming. And to your point, it only takes one person to make a sale.
Yeah.
Like you don't need a million views. You don't even need thousands of followers on Instagram. If they're not converting to sales, what are you doing? What's the point?
Right. Right.
If
Right.
it's to have fun, well, cool. But if it's to make money, then we need to reevaluate and have some strategy in there.
Sure.
Um, so
No.
I don't want to run out of time. But I wanted to make sure we already addressed one of the submitted questions, which was around like how do I know that my brand is working? But one of the other questions that was submitted was how to go from how to go to serving high-end or premium clients without completely rebranding. So I have a couple thoughts, but I wanted to hear if you have any off the top of your head thoughts, or I'm happy to go first if you need a second to think about it.
Yeah, so one thing immediately comes to my head, and that's your messaging. Like how, like what words you're using. And like I've noticed this a little bit, like with the way that I was showing up on social media specifically, that I would, speak to people, be like, if you're just getting started, like I would use those kind of things.
Mhm.
And of course, I'm reaching like brand new entrepreneurs, and it's like those are not going to be the people that pay your high ticket services, right? And so with, I can use my social media for those things specifically. But if I were to start using it a little bit more for the high ticket, I would not use that language of like if you're just getting started. Like that makes perfect sense with my Rock and Scroll Club.
Yeah.
For my high ticket services, which I use in like emails and stuff, like I guess I use more like I'll take this off of your plate because you're busy and things like that. I'm not using the exact words, but like,
Yeah, no, no,
along
I
those
get it.
lines of
Yeah.
like, you're at a point where, you're literally just needing this off your plate and things like that. So definitely just the language and the words you use. And you have one thing that I use for myself and also for my clients is I literally pick one audience persona, like I build them. I'm like, who are they? How much do they make? What do they do for their job? What do they like to buy? Like, how is their buying style? And like, I create this whole profile of the person and I speak directly to
Yeah.
that person.
Yes.
And so
I
that's kind of
say
how
if you speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. Like you
a
have to
100%.
pick who am I speaking to right now? Like who is right in front of me right now? Otherwise,
Yep.
because when you're speaking to everybody, you're just nobody. It's like when you're at a wedding and like
Yep.
the DJ's like, all right, all of the groom's family come to the blah blah blah. And they're like, oh, they're not talking about me. They're not talking. And it's like, yes, I'm talking
Uh,
about you. Come in, come in, come
yeah,
in. Whereas if it's like, hey, Joe Schmo, come to the DJ booth, it's like, it's a lot more clear. Yeah.
right.
So I
Exactly.
love a lot of what we do just as people who work in branding and marketing is around messaging, like in
Yeah.
alignment and brand alignment and making sure that who you're talking to is who you're intentionally talking to. Um, the feedback I had as it pertains to that question is number one, understand what high end or premium means to your business. Because what I consider a high end or luxury or premium client may not but be what you consider a high end or luxury or premium client. So that is the first step that I would do is like, what does that look like for my business?
Interesting.
And then second is be crystal clear on your brand mission and vision. So high-end and premium clients, I find they want to work with brands who are crystal clear. There's no confusion. They're easy to work with, and the brand can easily identify their needs. So, in order to do that, there has to be some type of like experience there, right? And so, you have to be I think I said this earlier, but you have to be able to meet the client where they are, and the only way that you can do that is to understand where they are and why they showed up in the first place. So it takes some effort to truly understand who that client is, what they need to hear to purchase our services. So
Hmm. I
that
love
would be like the biggest thing. Number one, understand what that actually is and what it looks like to your business. And two, like make sure that your brand and vision are crystal clear and that
it.
you can communicate that clearly to your client.
I do agree with that. And another thing I find that they like is they don't really care. Like there's point A, here's where they are, and point B where they want to be. They don't really care
They
about how
don't.
it's done. They just care about can you
Yeah.
get them there?
Yeah, they're like, "Can I sit in the back and you give me a
Uh-huh.
water while we drive?" While you drive. That's what
I
they want,
love that
right?
analogy. Yes,
They
100%.
want that ease, they want that clarity, they want the understanding, they want expectations set. There has to be that system and that structure for them to effortlessly go through the process. And especially when we're talking about investing I would say over thousands of dollars. Some people, depending on what market you're working in, like when
Mhm.
people are spending a substantial amount of money, like they need that reassurance to make sure that they are investing in a brand that makes sense for them. And so
Right.
if there's that muddiness, then they're not going to hand over the check. They're going to go find somebody who's doing it more clearly.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to go ahead and wrap up with the question that we asked on the reel. So, what is something people think is intentional branding, but it's actually just your quirky personality?
I would say just simply the way I show up. Like that is not like manufactured. I'm not trying to be any sort of way. Like that's just how whenever I pull out the camera and just talk, that's what you're gonna get. That's what I would say if we were like face to face. And so like just being goofy and just being myself and not really worrying about the weird if somebody like perceives me as weird or
Yeah.
anything like that. Like I don't care. I'm at the
Yeah.
point of life where welcome that. And
Yeah.
if you kind of see the weirdness in me and you're like, I vibe with that, I want you in my
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not really intentional. It's just who I
How
am and
you
how I
are.
choose to show up, and I don't want to sacrifice it to
Yeah.
make somebody else happy.
Well, yours is way more inspirational than my answer because my answer is a little dysfunctional. So, so I have this, I don't know, I have this ability to like just go on autofocus, like where I'm just in this intense focus. And a lot of people think like from branding that like I have it all together.
Yeah.
And really it's just because I have like this hyper focus where I can just like dig into things and just like get it all done. And it just like energizes me. So my ability to take like a problem and then problem solve it and then create a solution for it is something
Uh-huh.
that comes very natural for me. And while it is very helpful it can be very hurtful. And that's something that I'm learning to navigate myself is my intense hyper focus. Like it's very,
Hmm.
very useful in terms of like getting content out or like creating an idea and seeing it through, but it can also be detrimental, right? Because that means I can ignore other things that are screaming for my attention. And so while that gives me a lot of energy to be able to do those things and to put the energy out, it can be very like taxing on the back end of like exhaustion. And I know a lot of small business owners, particularly creatives who are like that
Uh-huh.
because they're like they see this idea in their head and they're like
Yes.
I know some people on the call, they're like, "Oh my God, that's me." I see the
That's
names
awesome.
over there in the corner.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I would say that's definitely part of like that intense like follow through like bucket of problem solving kind of strategy is definitely just my personality. It's not anything that's intentional. It just kind of happens and just comes out.
Yeah, that's the best kind.
I like the chat box is like, way to call me out. um, okay, so what I want to do, we have about 8 minutes. I want to like give anybody the opportunity if you want to hop on. Let me, how do I do that? How do I give anybody the like how do I open? Do you know what I'm saying? I know I'm not using a lot of words. Like how do I make it to where people can turn on and off their stuff?
It's either in settings or participants. Whenever you click more and settings, maybe.
Okay, unmute themselves. Start video. Okay. So I want to open up the floor if anybody has anything they'd like to share or say or ask. I just want to give them the opportunity. Have you read this book,
Okay.
Reagan?
Well, I'm not. I wrote it down though. I you sharing it, so
There is, so when it gets towards the end of the book, in the end of the book, some of it's obsolete. Like there's like they talk about like some like sharing strategies and stuff, and you know that stuff just kind of like recycles
sure.
and like changes all the time. But it's really good. And I did a guess it was like maybe a couple years ago I did a book club on it, and I'll probably launch another one in the fall. I think I'm gonna do a book club for it. I just want to actually Steve, he's on the call. He was on my last book club with it. Actually, Steve, I'm gonna call you out. Steve, he's my guy. Steve, if you feel up to getting on camera, tell me how you liked this book and if you I know you still probably still have homework from it. There
Hey,
he is.
hi. Thanks for calling me out like that. Yeah, I love it. I still use it. I'm working on, I think it's been like a year now that I've been working on my rebranding, and I still go through it, try to align. Kind of like you guys said earlier on the call, like it's something that I'm constantly evolving and pivoting and moving as I learn more. So it's nice to be able to look back on that book and go, okay, cool. Like, what I'm changing aligns with, you know, what I should be doing. So it's a very good learning and also a very good guide for, continued rebranding.
Yeah, yeah. I like it too. I'm constantly referencing it. Like I think I have like three color pen marks in here. That's three separate reads. It's just really good and it has a lot of just alternate perspective in it. And it kind of touches a little bit like on you were talking a little bit about like marketing perspective and or yes. So so it kind of talks a little bit about like the psychology of it and all that good stuff. So just highly recommend it. Whitney's recommending Full Circle Marketing. Let me go to I don't know. Do you know who writes that? Who's the author of Full Circle Marketing?
So I know it's a guy out of Alexandria. He owns Ugly Mug Marketing,
Yes.
and it really goes into, and Regan, you speak to this all the time, like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which
Yeah.
seems like, but like you really have to consider, like, are you a necessity or are you kind of like not a necessity, and like how do you apply that? But it's a phenomenal kind of like bird's eye view of marketing strategy, and it talks about kind of only half the thing is getting a customer. Really, 50% of your 50% of the strategy is making those customers become evangelists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's where most of your energy should go, and
Yeah.
it's just it's so good. And yeah, okay. So I do have a question, and I would love from the perspective of like two people outside of branding. So like obviously, one of my struggles is like the branding for Whole Heart Health has been kind of me and my personality. Can't be. It has to be. So like, what are y'all suggestions? Kind of like, I don't want to say shifting the branding because I think the branding's there, but moving it more me to kind of like this is. I mean, the goal is to be able to be chaptered, and so like whoever's Regan, you had a chapter there. The brand can't just scream Whitney.
Interesting. So I'm working with a burger company right now. And like they're like, we do not want to be the face of it. And like they are so, so cute, like the little couple that owns it. But and like the messaging is kind of their style, but we're also bringing in other people, like other members of their team. And so we're bringing in a lot of that and like just showing like the mission, going back to Angela's, whole thing and talking about like the mission and like that kind of thing a little bit more than the founder story. Like we're backing out, we throw that in a little bit like as necessary, especially because they're going through like a whole vote for me kind of thing for like a local contest. So I'm like, we have to throw that in there right now because it makes sense. Like overall in our marketing, we're using a lot more of like the missions there. This is kind of how we started our humble beginnings and things like that. Not even focusing on like the names or anything like that, and then throwing in more of like the team and like behind the scenes of the growth and slowly like we're replacing their story with the overarching mission of like what they do. And so I kind of like I even see that in yours, Whitney. Like you're throwing in more like here's my team and like here's
Yeah.
what happens at these events and things like that. So I feel like you're already doing it, but leaning in a little bit more, like throwing in a little bit more disconnect, like as you go. Like don't do it like full force because people expect that of you right now. And
Yep.
like that's kind of helping, get you along, but then slowly pulling that back and adding more mission, more people focus. I
That was
think that's
that
my
was gonna be, I was gonna say a similar thing of just like I can see it being transitionary where it's like right now I would focus kind of right now on just like building that the mission, like that core root, and then slowly transitioning about and you're already to mimic what Regan is saying, you're already kind of doing that where you're like you're starting to show like more people more about like your volunteers, and now you have the board in place, like those will be faces that will start to pop up, um the community, things like that. Like I feel like you're already in that, you're on your way to transitioning to that. But yeah, I agree with what Reagan's saying is kind of keeping that transition slow and steady wins the race kind of thing is what I could see being the best bet. Can't tell if she's talking or not. Okay. Okay. Okay.
soaking it in.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, look, we're at 1 o'clock. Regan, thank you, thank you, thank you for hanging out with me today. And just for anybody who wants to get in touch with you, if you can just tell us where to find you online, where to find you on your website, if we want to sign up for your Rock and Scroll Club, just whatever you want to share with everybody.
Sweet. So I just dropped in my website in the chat. Super simple, reagansanders.com. You can find all of the things there. If you are interested in the Rock and Scroll Club, the tab coaching is where you want to go, and that'll take you to where the sign up for that. So everything
Awesome.
there.
Good deal. Well,
Yeah.
I want to just close this out with I'm Whitney made me look up this thing. So Mike Albeck, he also talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And a quote that is in there, which I think is just good to kind of leave you with, is it says, people who are self-actualized are magnetic to their friends and clients. Sometimes they are polarizing as well, as they attract people with a cult-like status and push others away like the opposite side of a magnet. Okay.
Mm.
All right, so I will leave y'all with that. And y'all know where to find me, collabwithangela.com or online in the same fashion. I look forward to seeing y'all next quarter. Let me know if I can help you with anything. Thank you, Reagan.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.